Can you give me an example of a food that's a vaccine?
You recognize?
Yes. University of California, Riverside has already perfected the ability to put human vaccines into our lettuce right now. Also tomatoes has the ability to do that also for UC Berkeley. And then Big Tobacco, RJ Reynolds and stuff has perfected the ability to put a human vaccine into tobacco products.
Chairman Clements?
And is that even legal to do in the state of Tennessee, to sell those with a vaccine in them?
You recognize?
Well, I'm not arguing that point. What I'm saying is there is no law deeming those that when you go into a grocery store, you should know as a consumer, this head of lettuce is a head of lettuce. The head of lettuce right next to it could contain a vaccine in it. All we're saying is if it does have the vaccine in it, make sure it's listed as a pharmaceutical so people can get the proper dosage.
You recognize?
Thank you. Well, my question is right now, can you walk into a grocery store and there be a head of lettuce for sale that has a vaccine in it? I don't think that's allowed under state law presently. And if it is, and you have to list it as a pharmaceutical, are we going to then have Walgreens pharmacists with a refrigerated section? I mean, how's this going to play out?
You recognize?
Thank you. This is more of a consumer protection bill right here, is to make sure that if you're going in to buy tomatoes and there's a polio vaccine in there, that you are aware of what you're buying has a polio vaccine. The problem you have is if it's not treated as a pharmaceutical, being the size and difference between you and me, how many tomatoes do I have to eat to get the proper dosage versus how many tomatoes that you have to eat? And if you eat too many, do you get a overdose? If you eat too less, like we had in the cattle industry with Aeromycin, we weren't dosing our cattle properly and the horn flies were developing an immunity to it. If we don't have the proper dosage of a vaccine, it could lead to the efficacy of that drug not work anymore.
Talk to me about the lettuce bill for a second.
Yeah, what about it?
Where did this threat come from?
Came from a constituent who moved from California, who was tied to UC Berkeley out there. University of California, Riverside has already perfected the ability to put human vaccines into our lettuce right now. He brought this to my attention, and at first it sounds absolutely incredible, right? And then he produced.
That's one word for it.
But then he produced all the documentation.
I Googled it after you read this, okay? First of all, it's not fully ready yet. Like
sure it is. How many tomatoes do I have to eat to get the proper dosage versus how many tomatoes that you have to eat? And if you eat too many, do you get a overdose? What this says is if this technology continues to advance, we just want to make sure that we are having transparency in what people are buying at a grocery store. That's all. If you eat too less, like we had in the cattle industry with Aeromycin, we weren't dosing our cattle properly and the horn flies were developing an immunity to it. You should know as a consumer, this head of lettuce is a head of lettuce. The head of lettuce right next to it could contain a vaccine in it.
You got lettuce vaccine bills and you don't have gun bills.
Yeah.
Like, that's crazy, man. That's a little out there, man. I gotta say.
Ayes have it. Bill goes on to counter and rules. If you wish to be recorded as a no, please notify the clerk.
The TLS organization to share the following message with the world regarding an urgent matter: the next pandemic. Before I share this message, I would just like to reiterate that none of what you are about to hear is intended to instill fear in anyone. Rather, to give you all a heads up of what may be coming, and most importantly, what we can do to stop it. The intention of TLS choosing to share the following message with the world is to expose a plan before it happens in order to make the individuals behind this sinister agenda think twice before they do what they are about to do. Most importantly, if this video is shared with the world and seen by the masses, our premature awareness of their plans will likely stop them from being able to move forward. The message goes as follows. The avian flu, otherwise known as H5N1, is here and is just about to start spreading like a wildfire. Dr. Kawaka is the head of the gain-of-function research for this specific microorganism to weaponize it and use it against human beings. For those of you who don't yet know what gain-of-function research is, it is defined as medical research that genetically alters an organism in a way that may enhance the biological functions of gene products. This may include an altered pathogenesis, transmissibility, or host range, such as the type of hosts that a microorganism can infect. In other words, gain-of-function research turns a non-lethal microorganism into one that is dangerous and can kill its host. It's a weapon. The lethal version of the avian flu has already been intentionally released into the wild as a test and is impacting animals such as birds, bears, skunks, raccoons, and even dolphins, to name a few. The next step will be to spread it to human beings. The goal is to create another pandemic, only this one is intended to make the last one look like child's play. TLS is currently working on a plan to try and stop this. And part of their plan is to shut down some of the labs that plan to release this to the human race. Another part of their plan is this very video, with the hopes that it will be shared and seen by millions. By the way, the labs where this gain-of-function research is happening are located in the Ukraine. All of this is connected to the war, which is being used as a facade to divert our attention away from what's really going on. Speaking of diversions, the war is not the only one. The arrest of the 45th president, the riots in France, and the political chaos in Israel is all a part of this diversion tactic as well. But the avian flu is not where it ends. The avian flu is meant to bring in the next pandemic, which will make way for two very specific things. Number one, global economic collapse, which will lead to the banks collapsing internationally, not just in the United States of America, and thus bring in digital money, digital currency for more power and control over the masses. And number two, a global health emergency, which will give them a reason to bring in the need for digital passports, which world leaders already signed a declaration on back in 2022. As you can see from this article published on November 19th of 2022, it says, at this year's G20 summit in Indonesia, the 20 participating world leaders signed a declaration to introduce vaccine passports for their respective jurisdictions with the stated intention of creating a global verification system to facilitate safe international travel. In other words, just in case there's another pandemic. It's important to note that the vaccine for the so-called avian flu, or H5N1, has already been manufactured, and the US and many other countries have already begun purchasing these in bulk to prepare, again, just in case there's another pandemic. As already stated, all of this is planned. So what can we do and what must we know? Number one, if you get sick with some type of bird flu, this is not something natural. This is man-made. Number two, stock up on vitamin D and get yourself a nebulizer if you can. Dr. Mercola has a very simple and informative video on how to use a nebulizer the right way, which can be found at mercola.com. And number three, veganism is a good option right now with what's going on. But if you're going to eat meat, it's recommended that you stay away from chicken and turkey specifically. Again, the intention of this message is not to induce fear, rather to give you all a heads up to protect yourself and spread enough awareness before they officially deploy the next part of their plans to infect the human race. If enough people know about this, they will think twice before moving forward. Remember, we the people have the power. We have a chance to take that power back into our hands right now, peacefully. I, along with TLS, ask you to share this video far and wide to give us all the best chances of getting through this with as little damage as possible. Obviously, this video will not be touched by the mainstream media, and I am not able to post it on my regular channels on YouTube, Instagram, and Facebook without running a huge risk of being deleted. This means that we will have to work extra hard to share this video.
There's a YouTube channel called Universal Heritage TV Niger, who interviewed a doctor/professor, academician, activist called Dr. Philip Njemanze. And he was talking to them. You guys, there are things going on in this world. Eh? So he was talking to them about what he said the Bill Gates Foundation is planning to do in Nigeria, or has been doing in Nigeria, in the area of farmers and doctors.
Recently, you raised an alarm through a letter you transmitted to the National Assembly, the Senate specifically. And in that letter, in fact, you touched the whole world. You copied the UN, you copied ILO, You copied the Conference of Bishops in Africa, Asia, Europe. You touched everywhere in the world. And you talked about a planned genocide of doctors in Nigeria. It's very disturbing. Can you explain or expand on that and let us know what is happening really?
What the West is looking at is that they envisage a new human industry. The new human industry will make it possible to replace organ parts of sick people instead of continuously taking drugs for any medical condition. So what that means is that if you have a heart disease and you go to a doctor, the doctor will could take a sample from that your diseased heart, send it to the biotech companies, which are actually most of them in this category are owned by Bill Gates. They will now clone exactly that heart of that person. And how will they do this? They will take the cell the doctor sent them and remove the nuclear material, that's the nucleus that has all the genetic information. Now, they will get the egg of a woman, or eggs of women, because they will need several eggs for this. They will remove the nucleus on that egg and then transfer the nucleus from that diseased heart into that egg. So that's what we call somatic cell nuclear transfer. So when they transfer it and then they keep it to in a culture to grow into a heart, replicating the exact heart of that diseased person. But now that heart will be brand new without disease. They can now send that heart back to the doctor and they will now implant it into the patient. And of course the person must have paid maybe $2 million or $1 million or whatever the cost involved. But this process of doing this is a manual process. That means making this transfer into the egg of a woman. So the eggs of women could be taken in hundreds just to do one procedure. So they will need about 100 million eggs, which will come from 10 million women. So when they looked at the map of the world and saw where on earth can we get up to 10 million women to donate egg?
Okay.
The planned genocide is restricted to Nigeria. But one has to understand, why do they need to kill the doctors? They kill the farmers because they wanted to make sure they eliminate all the seed growers in the country. So when they eliminate the seed growers, the natural seeds will never be available again. And how they did that was very simple. What they did was that they just gave 14 million cell phones to all Nigerian farmers, so they could track those people who were being paid for seeds. So when other farmers go to them, they go to buy seeds, and then they know that this person was being paid for seeds, so he's the one selling the seeds. So they now use the GPS coordinates on these so-called electronic wallets, which are just cell phones, to target all of them and eliminate them. When you eliminate the seed, natural seed growers, there will be no other alternative to the GMO, genetically modified organisms, foods and seeds. So they brought these seeds as improved seeds. The other farmers, they drove them into IDP camps and came to these IDP camps under the different NGOs and international agencies and presented these GMO seeds. So the farmers will now leave, they will temporarily hold their military activities in those areas, so the farmers will go and resettle. When they resettle, they start planting the GMO seeds. Once you plant the GMO seeds that first time, that first seed you get from that your maize, if you eat it, that will be the last you are going to eat. Because if you take the seed from that GMO corn and plant it, it will not grow. The gene that allows replication has been switched off. So you have to go back to the person who produced the initial seed. That is, in this case in Nigeria, it will be Monsanto. Between 2015 and 2018, 37,500 people, victims were killed by Boko Haram. Okay. These were farmers. Then of these 37,500, 32,000, that's 85% were Muslims. 5,500 were Christians. And in states like Zamfara, 60% of the victims were Hausa, 40% were Fulani. So it became clear that this has nothing to do with Islamic terrorism. It has to do with elimination of all the seed growers. Okay. Now they have eliminated the seed growers. Okay. Now they're moving into the second phase of their program. Now, when the farmers go to them, now we now depend exclusively on the GMOs. Okay.
So you mean we not depend on GMOs right now?
Exactly. Okay. Because without the GMOs, you cannot really get seeds, unless we are getting seeds from different African countries and some places. Some places in the south, especially southwest, and some parts of southeast, we can still get our own seeds because the Boko Haram have not really been infiltrated them. But they are trying to do that. The next phase is whereby they will have total monopoly of the seeds. And then they will tell the farmers, you want us to give you seed? Okay, we can give you seed, but on the premise that you must tell your wife and daughters to go and donate their ovarian eggs. And why do they have to do that? They have to do that because the Western countries need these ovarian eggs for cloning. And when he called us, and I must say, I was physically present when Bill Gates called us through the General Electric, who he awarded the contract to build 260 hospitals in Nigeria, so that it will be at these his hospitals they will be harvesting these organs and harvesting these eggs. So he will now take us out of the health sector. He invited the leaders in the private health sector and said, okay, look, I'm ready to offer you money to leave the healthcare sector. We told him before the executives of GE that he is mad and insane to demand such a thing.
To leave medical practice.
Then we should leave medical practice. And then he will pay us, no matter the amount of dollars we ask for. So we said, you are mad. We are not going to do that, and to hell with you.
Is that really?
We told him off before the executives of, I was personally present. The lab people, the president and secretaries of the lab, National Organization of the Laboratory Scientists was there. The president and secretary of the community pharmacies was there. And we told him to his face, to his presence, because they were talking on, it was a telecom conference, and then the executives of General Electric were there at their headquarters in Abuja. So we told him off that you cannot do that, even with all your money and all your thing, it's not going to be possible. Now, since we rejected that offer, he has moved to his second option. Okay, eliminate, kill all these doctors, and then take over the health care. And he told us they have already taken off the whole government hospitals. They bought the federal medical centers, they bought the university teaching hospitals.